Website, profootballtalk.com. Jimmy Garoppolo, come on down. He seems to be the flavor of the week here. What happened? Why is he now on everybody's radar?
Well, like you said earlier, he was always on the scouts' radar. The media catches up because we get bored talking about Johnny Manziel and Teddy Bridgewater. And Teddy Bridgewater got forgotten before the Combine. I'd feel bad if I was Teddy Bridgewater. It was all Blake Bortles and Johnny Manziel. I think the media just likes saying the name Blake Bortles. Maybe we prefer saying Jimmy Garoppolo now.
I think we like saying Blake Bortles and his girlfriend. That got a little bit of attention when I asked him, strangest question, that he was actually asked about his girlfriend in these meetings. Should you be able to ask about that kind of topic there?
That's a little too close to the stuff that caused all the trouble last year when they were asking guys if they even had a girlfriend. Remember that?
Yeah.
So I'm surprised anybody danced close to that line this year.
But he was asked that
everything
too.
that happened last year, and then after the Michael Sam stuff that happened, a week or two before the Combine.
Yeah, but Bortles said he was asked about if he liked women.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, it just shows no matter how many memos they send out from the league office to the teams, it takes a while for these things to actually stick.
I saw this story, and it had to do with Tony Romo about if he was going to restructure his contract, and then I saw a story that had him possibly traded to the Texans for the number 1 pick. Now, okay, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, hey, you know what? The Joneses love Johnny Manziel, unless they're playing the old banana in the tailpipe, and that happens all the time during the draft run-up. But Stephen Jones has come out and said he loves Johnny Manziel. Manziel grew up a Cowboys fan. I mean, it would be obvious if Tony Romo ends up in Houston that that's who the Cowboys would take with the number 1 overall pick. That would be fascinating if it happens, but trading Tony Romo would trigger a gigantic cap hit for the Dallas Cowboys this year. Okay. I don't think it can happen from a financial standpoint.
Let me go back to Garoppolo for a moment because the Texans worked him out. You had the Niners working him out. I don't know if a team trades down to the end of the first round or maybe you wait beginning of the second round. He seems like he's going to be that kind of quarterback. Is he a first-round quarterback?
Well, Bill Polian says he is. Of course, Bill Polian thought Jerry Hughes was a first-round linebacker, so, there's that. But when you're Harbaugh and you're going to be at the bottom of round one thing you'll see, teams will scout quarterbacks that are in the vicinity of where they think they'll be drafting, even if they have a quarterback. Because if you have an opportunity to trade out of that spot to a team that wants to come up and get Jimmy Garoppolo, you want to have a good feel for what he's worth. The Rams are going to scout all the top quarterbacks, even though they swear they're not going to take one. They want to have a good feel of what these guys are worth if they get a trade opportunity. So it doesn't, who gets scouted and doesn't get scouted, who knows what's going to happen. But I think part of it is gauging trade value. You want to know what the guy has so you know what to ask for if someone wants to come get him.
Kaepernick wants $18 million a year. You getting that?
Well, he's got 23 career starts. If I'm the 49ers, I let this thing play out a bit. I'm more willing to do the Joe Flacco gamble with Colin Kaepernick than the Falcons were with Matt Ryan. Remember, they paid Ryan the year before his contract expired. With Kaepernick, I want to see what he can do one more season because his numbers are not great when he's facing pressure. There was an item in ESPN the magazine recently with the stats on how he struggles when there's pressure. I want to see, can he get through a full regular season? And also, if you're going to give this guy big money, you're taking on a greater injury risk because he's a mobile quarterback. So you give him 50, 60 million guaranteed, and he suffers a serious injury, you're stuck. Whereas with a pocket quarterback, the chances are smaller that you're going to have some type of a catastrophic injury.
What happens with Jimmy Graham in the Saints?
Well, this all boils down to one very basic question, and it's under the labor deal. You get tendered as a franchise player at the position where you took the most snaps in the prior year. This all comes down to what the arbitrator, outside party, probably a lawyer, is going to look at this and make a decision. How do you characterize plays when Jimmy Graham lines up in the slot? The Saints will say he's still a tight end when he lines up in the slot. Graham will say, I'm a receiver when I line up in the slot. You take those plays lined up in the slot and you swing them to tight end or receiver, and that's going to decide this thing. And I would anticipate that Graham's people in the NFLPA are going to push this soon. You got $5.2 million on a one-year deal. hanging in the balance over 4 years. That becomes $20 million. I mean, the gap gets huge on a multi-year deal. So I think that's going to be the first order of business. And then the question is, will there be a team out there lurking at the bottom of round one? Because if you sign them to an offer sheet and the Saints don't match, you give up 2 first-round picks. Well, if I'm at the bottom of round one this year, and I think I'm going to be at the bottom of round one next year, that costs me a lot less to make a run at Jimmy Graham. So I think there's at least value in keeping an eye on that possibility.
Peter King and Adam Schefter went back and forth on it. Peter said no, he'd never give up 2 first-round picks. Well, first of all, if I'm drafting 29th and I give up my first round this year and a first round next year, 2 first-round picks for a game changer? How many game changers are there in the NFL?
Non-quarterbacks, there aren't many.
Yeah,
and I think Jimmy Graham's the only non-quarterback you'd even have this debate for.
Well, you'd have Megatron.
Well, that's true. That's true. You're right. Yeah, but a game-changing receiver in a game where it's all about passing now, if you have an impact receiver that commands double coverage everywhere he goes and opens up the rest of the offense, that's a guy you'd consider giving up 2 first-round picks for.
Absolutely.
If you draft low.
Absolutely. If I'm Seattle, absolutely.
Here's the problem with Seattle, though.
Or Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay's better because Seattle's got $13 million tied up this year in Percy Harvin, and Seattle's had a habit of paying a lot of money to guys who have never played for them before. They got to start paying some of the guys who have been there, some of the guys who've contributed to the success, because sooner or later you start getting resentment in Seattle for all these guys who've never played here before getting all the money while we're just sitting around waiting to get paid.
All right, a couple of things here before I get to that big topic about Las Vegas and over-serving somebody while they're gambling. Browns didn't interview Johnny Manziel at the Combine. Is that headline-worthy?
Well, they didn't have a formal interview. Now, there are opportunities to do informal interviews with every guy there. If you've got the resources, if you have enough people from your building, you can interview every guy there if you want to. So not having a formal 15-minute interview when they do the speed dating sessions in the player hotels at night, that doesn't mean they didn't talk to him, and it doesn't mean they won't talk to him. Of course they're going to talk to him at some point. Even if they don't want him, they want to find out what they know about him and what there is to know about him, because they could be sitting there at number 4 and there could be someone calling saying, we want to trade up for Johnny Manziel, and you need to know what you want to ask for, and you want to have your own opinion about Johnny Manziel before you make that decision.
Jarrell Revis' future in Tampa is what?
Well, it's a little murky, but it won't be murky for very long, because if he's on the roster next Thursday, he's owed $1.5 million, and the 4th-round pick that the Buccaneers currently owe the Jets becomes a 3rd-round pick if he's on the roster in Tampa next Thursday. So if it's going to happen, it's got to happen quickly. And the thinking in some circles is that a couple of the teams that are in position to go all in with franchise quarterbacks who are getting close to the end, like the Broncos and Peyton Manning, or more importantly than that, the Patriots and Tom Brady, could be inclined to try to pry him away, convince the Buccaneers to save $16 million, move on. They're really not contenders. They really don't benefit from him. Whether that works remains to be seen, but there's a belief that there's going to be an effort to try to make that happen. But again, if it's going to happen, it's got to happen quickly.
Which rule proposals will go through? There's been a lot of talk. Now, things, kind of trying to spitball some things here, but does anything – I mentioned this a long time ago that we're adding 2 more wild card teams. Got crucified because I said it, but it is happening, whether it's this year or next year. What else is going to go through?
Well, I think there's going to be some sort of a change to the instant replay function. Now, it doesn't seem that right now there's enough support to completely remove it from the stadium and put it at league headquarters, which is what they should do. But I got the impression from talking to Jeff Fisher, the Rams head coach at the scouting combine, and he's on the competition committee, that they're going to do something where Dean Blandino, the VP of officiating, is able to talk directly to the referee when he's doing the replay review to ensure that there's consistency and to make sure that they get it right. And, Dan, I think that's something that they should do. They talk about adding an 8th official on the field. They should put an 8th official in the booth who is constantly talking to the referee, making sure in real time that they're not missing anything, not through a replay function that takes 5 minutes to figure out, but in real time saying, hey, I'm up here watching 20 different camera angles, and you guys are going to blow this one. This is what you need to do.
Yeah, so this whole extra point thing, where is that going anywhere anytime soon?
Well, look, the commissioner is the president, and the owners are Congress, and the president's got to convince Congress of what laws to pass. And I think that this whole 42-yard extra point nonsense, I think it's the first of what's going to be many ridiculous proposals to get people to, first of all, accept the fact that they need to do something about the extra point, and then secondly, to warm up to the proposal to just get rid of it. Because this is all rooted in making the game a little bit safer. You take out the extra point, you make the game a little bit safer. That's how Rob Gronkowski broke his arm in 2012. Yeah. So I think that this 42-yard thing is just about getting people eventually to the point where they say, you get 7 automatically, and if you want to risk 1 point and go for 2, you get the ball at the 2-yard line and you can go for it.
Okay.
Whether it ever happens, who knows? But this is all about all the little ways they can try to make the game safer.
Okay, what about the adding 2 wildcard teams?
Oh, you're on the money with that. It's going to happen. I'd be shocked if it doesn't.
This year?
Well, I think the earliest they could actually implement it would be 2015 because this is all about making as much money as you can off of the TV side of it. So you don't want to rush to market with those 2 extra games. You want to let it breathe a little bit. So they want to let it breathe a year. And I think you drop them in prime time. I think they should do a Sunday night and a Monday night prime time game, wild card weekend, not Friday night. For God's sakes, the teams are playing week 17. You want somebody to play Friday night. Sunday night, Monday night makes the most sense for the 2 extra games. They'll make a ton of money. And this is all about finding a way to recoup the money that will be lost when they shrink the preseason. They are determined to shrink the preseason. Nobody seems to want to do 18-game regular season, so the other way to recoup the lost money from shrinking the preseason is expand the playoffs. I'd be shocked if that doesn't happen.
All right, you're a lawyer, and I was curious about this, that you had a guy who says the casino is responsible for me losing. I was gambling. He lost $500,000. Said he was too drunk to continue playing, but they continued to serve him. If you were representing this client, what would you do?
Well, I would argue that the gaming regulations in Nevada say that a casino can be disciplined for allowing a visibly drunk person to gamble. I would then subpoena all of the video, and in a casino, as Ray Rice is learning the hard way, everything is videotaped. Everything that happens in the gaming area is videotaped. And if my guy looks like he's visibly drunk, I'll say, well, what kind of training did you have for your people there to know whether or not somebody was visibly drunk? I'm sure there's all sorts of detailed training that they engage in, and I'd hope that the video showed a guy staggering around like Foster Brooks.
Okay, but now I'm going to ask you to represent the casino.
Well, first thing I'd do is I'd say, I want to see all the video. I want to see all the video, and I want to see all the records that all the people were trained properly and how to deal with somebody who may be drunk. And that's what drives this process. I mean, I did this for 18 years, and it's going to be 5 years since I stopped, and I don't miss it. You battle over what the facts really are, and you've got one side that paints one picture, you've got the other side that paints the other picture, and the poor jury's caught in the middle trying to figure it all out.
He's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk on NBCSN tonight, every night of the week at 5:30 Eastern. Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
All right, see you, pal.
All right.